Oh, the exit polls should not be significantly different than the vote.
And if they were, you would conclude what?
I would conclude someone's playing with a vote.
Not with the exit polls?
That's possible too.
Okay, I was going to ask why
something is definitely skewed.
Something is skewed in one or the other about.
Right. To select which one, you'd have to see where the problem is.
Let me ask you one further question. Assuming for the moment that such software, that's what you call it, such software to rig a vote was used in one or more machines in Ohio or in Florida, could you today detect that if you looked at the source code?
If you could get the machines and they have not been patched yet, I mean, once they get in and touch them, anything can happen. You can also set timers to that, but then you see the timers. Then you'd have to take those machines, decompile them, which I couldn't do, but possibly a Microsoft and MIT something could do. You might be able to see it.
You might.
Not necessarily. Depends on how good they are at destroying what they had.
Destroying what they had by tampering this machine afterwards, or by programming a destroy instruction in the first place?
Right, because since you didn't...
Both? Either or both?
Either or both. You didn't actually see what's in there, so you don't know if the code is running in a single executable or running in various modules. If it's running in modules, you can make the code actually eat itself.
Let me ask you one further question. I've been told that people who assume that lots of the election results, or that a large fraction of the election result in any state may have been affected by deliberate fraud in the computer, are paranoid, because in order to do that, you have to have access to thousands of machines, and that would be readily detectable. To what extent is that true?
It depends on the technology you use. If you did a central tabulation machine that fed in, all you'd have to do is set a flag. You set a flag, the central tabulation machine would then flip your vote.
So so one person putting in bad code in a central tabulation machine could affect thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of votes.
Right, and you could activate either automatically, or you could make it so that there's code existing on like an electronic machine that feeds it, where you would punch it in, it would set the flag, the server would see the flag, and then...
And if you had a recount, and there were no paper trail, would that be, assuming that had happened, would that be revealable by seeing a discrepancy between what the central tabulator showed and what the individual machines, which had not been tampered with, showed?
Not if I wrote it.
Why not? In other words,
I would make it match.
You could work back from the tabulator to the individual machines, so the tabulator would tell the machines to switch their results?
Yes. It talks both ways. You can flip it to whatever you need.
And they actually do talk to each other, the machines.
As long as it's hooked up, as long as it's networked together, they can talk to each other.
So in other words, there is absolutely no assurance whatsoever on anything with regard to these machines?
Absolutely none, unless you look at the source code and make sure it's safe before it goes out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Mathers. I know that Congresswoman Waters has a question, and then Senator Miller, and then Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs-Jones.
This will only take a moment if you would come back to the...
I'm new at this.
As you know, there has been a lot of discussion about, I think it was Diebold Company, their relationship to the President and the administration, and supposedly comments about helping to ensure that the President was reelected. In your world, in your environment, have you heard any of this kind of discussion? Do you know people for Diebold? Do you have any sense of any actions that may have been taken?
I don't know anything about that at all.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, I suspect people will attack you in terms of your credibility. Could you restate once again your credentials?
I'm a programmer. I worked for NASA, worked for ExxonMobil, worked for Department of Transportation, and other elements of my story, because this company, well, let's get into it. Why not? This company also, they have NASA contracts, and they were basically downloading tons of information, I mean gigabytes worth, and handing off to this little Chinese guy named Henry Nee, and it didn't seem right, and he was hacking things, and I wrote a program for DOT that allowed contractors to send their information into DOT, and he was kind of the quality assurance guy for software. He put a wiretapping module in the program that went out to the contractors so that it actually sent everything they sent back to Yang. So I reported all this, and just last March, I think, he was arrested for attempting to send anti-tank missile chips to the capital of Communist China. So, if that's correct, this is such a small thing. Of course, I think he only got a $100 fine. And no time.
Thank you. Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to